Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps VR, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, Top Hopper, Sideline Design, Sports Workbook, and Tip of the Spear. Today we have on Mark and Marcus Carter. They are the co-head coaches at Desert Edge High School in Arizona. And Marcus, you got your mic muted. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah,
But thanks for coming on, y'all. And I usually start off with something like, just tell us a little bit about yourselves. We already got 5 people tuning in. If you got a question for uh, Mark and Marcus, just put it in the YouTube comments and we'll answer it. But thank y'all for coming on this morning. I know it's early in Arizona.
No, thanks for having us, man. This is a great opportunity. So,
yeah, appreciate you.
So where does y'all's story start? I know y'all are from Cali.
so we're from the Bay Area. We're from San Jose, California. Born and raised. Shoot, we lived there for most of our lives until we moved up to Northern California with our older brother. It was one of those things where we were getting a little reckless, and mom had to reel us back in. I don't think we were making, the right decisions, and so instead of just going, fighting with us, mom just put us in a different situation, and so we moved up to Northern California as Redding, California, and stayed with my brother, my older brother, who's been a huge piece of our lives. And so so we lived with him for the remainder of our lives until we went out and into the world or whatnot. Not to say that we come from very humble beginnings. Mom, I guess she was a single parent, so to speak, but I saw my dad every holiday. What I mean? So Christmas break, summer break, whatever break. And that's one thing I really loved about my parents is I just think that they felt like they were good, good people, good friends, but they just weren't good together, that type of deal. And but they're really cool, what I'm saying? And so spending time with our dad and doing all that was, very beneficial because some of the skills that we used to coach, we got from him, being able to relate to people, being able to talk to people, being able to get people to believe, when we would go with him, we would just see hustlers, drug dealers, and killers. You know what I'm saying? And being able to maneuver in that kind of traffic, you got to be special. And so, just still honing those skills that we saw out of him. Like I said, just kind of went to a thing where we're able to use that to get people believe. And so, when we're in Redding, we moved down to Chico, California. I'm sure people know about Chico, California, party school, whatnot. And so we lived with my brother there. And from there, he taught us how to be a man, so to speak. He was the first person that we've seen that was married. You know what I'm saying? He was the first person that we saw that had children, young children. And so being able to live with him and kind of seeing that just kind of put that seed in our heads as far as wanting to be fathers, wanting to be husbands, wanting to be those kind of things. Not that my dad didn't; it was just a totally different, dynamic, so to speak. And so it's kind of funny because as we move on, we were basketball players, so we became these football coaches, but we're really basketball players. And we went to Merced College. Actually, first went to Butte College, and Marcus played basketball at Butte College, and then we both moved to Merced College, kind of by Stockton, Fresno area in California. And we both played basketball at Merced College. And so when we were in Merced, basketball is a winter sport, so football came first. And so you want to take it from there, Marcus?
Yeah, so we were in a town called Winton. So like Winton is like a town outside of Merced. And so we lived in Winton and walking down the road because it was so small, I really didn't have sidewalks, and we were walking down the road, and they said I was seeing a sign for football signups, and we were like, we lived in a this little town. We really had nothing to do. It was before the internet and all that kind of stuff. So it was like let's do something, and people always laugh when I tell them the story but it's the 100% truth. We said, hey, like we play Madden, we play Madden, so why not coach? And so we walked up to the people and asked them, how do we sign up to coach? And then they said, well, we can't pay you. I said, well, we're not looking to get paid anyway. And she was like, okay, well, practice starts on Monday. And we were like, what? And then, just remembering some of the plays that because we did play a little bit in high school. Um, and so remember trying to remember some of the plays from high school, and then, literally taking some stuff off of Madden. And then, the rest is history. Is just the way the first game that we played, and just seeing the kids and seeing their eyes and seeing like the reaction, and what just gave me like a different kind of high. Like it was like a natural high, just like, seeing it just made my body and my mind feel like, wow, like this is just peace, you know what I mean? And then we went out and we played and we lost. But it's still in the loss, like seeing the kids, just their faces, and seeing them compete and seeing them have fun, and just seeing just pure joy is what, like this is what we want to, this is what I want to do. This is what we're going to do, because like just being able to affect, like these are like 12 and 13, 14-year-old kids, but just seeing their faces of joy because some people believed in them, was crazy. And I was talking to my wife last night. We were going to one of her friends' birthday parties, and my son and my nephew played on this, played Pop Warner and stuff like that. And I was like, man, because we went to the state championship this year, and I was talking to my son and my nephew because I take him home, and usually we don't really talk about football on the way home, because like I think I've done a good job of keeping football and life separate in my house, because I want my son to love me because I'm his dad, not because I'm his football coach. And so
Mm-hmm.
we kind of keep that. My wife does a good job, and we kind of just keep football separate. When we walk in the house, it's no more football talk. Like, and we've been really good about it. But I was talking to him in the car on the way home, and I was like, man, isn't it crazy how you two from your team, how you two are the last two standing. Like you guys are the last two gonna be playing from your little Pop Warner teams. And then I was like, they were like, yeah, we really didn't think about it. And I was telling my wife, I was like, it was hard for me to watch my son and my nephew get coached, because like they never had joy in their faces when they played. It was always, coaches yelling and trying to tell them what to do, not showing them what to do, not really coaching them up. And it was, man, it was so hard for me to go to games and practices and stuff like that, because like I never saw joy in my
Mm-hmm.
son and my nephew. I never saw joy in the kids. And once they got older and they were able to be coached by me and my brother and my the coaches on my staff, it was like you got to see the joy and the fun in the game again, and they got to start acting like they loved the game and started playing the game like they loved the game. And I think the people, like, if you watch major sports, the people who love their sport and who find joy in their sport are the ones that are good, most likely are the ones that can get to that next level. And so, it was, I was happy that I got to share that experience with my son, my wife, my other kids, being at a state championship, being at ASU, and just that joy, seeing that joy when they walked out onto the field at ASU, of all the kids. And it was like, it reminded me of the first time I was able to coach again. I mean, I was able to coach, and it was just a crazy feeling after 19 years.
Yeah. So y'all got into coaching, and it just felt right. It felt like it was y'all's ministry. Coaching is y'all's ministry. And y'all were led to coaching because y'all want to make an impact. Y'all want to change lives. And I'm a big fan of Mike Tyson and his story, and how, he learned to box, and then the prison guard took him to Customado, and then Customado had been exiled out of boxing. And like, I just recently watched a podcast with Mike Tyson and Guru. He's like the guru from India.
Mhm.
And like, you talked about earlier, and Mike Tyson talks about it. He said when he grew up in Brownsville that he came from filth pretty much. And the guru tells him that only a lotus flower can grow from filth because there's three things that can happen. You can go to the cave and run from it, and the filth stays in your mind, or you can stay in the filth and become the filth, or you can become the lotus flower.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, do y'all agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it goes to that saying. I remember it was like, I think it was a Tupac song or something like
Yeah, the
that. He's
rose
talking
from
about
concrete.
Wills from Concrete. Yep, yep. Oh, see, that's my guy right there. Yep, that's I like that. And so yeah, it's the same type of deal, and when we were doing our thing in Merced, this was kind of a turning point for Marcus and I because I had left and went to Arizona, and this is one of the first times that we've ever like been apart. You know what I'm saying? Like in a different state, and so it was a situation where we were in different territory, and a lot of people, including Marcus, didn't want me to go to Arizona. I went on some weird terms, and so I left, and once I got there, we caught that bug of that coaching bug. So when I got here to Arizona, I was like, yo, regardless of whatever I'm doing here, I got to coach football. And so it's funny because I got here and I applied at like 15 different schools just to be an assistant. And it wasn't until the last school, which was Cactus High School, which is funny because that's one of our biggest rivals now. Marcus and I coach against Cactus every single year, and that's our big rivalry game. And so, I got on with Cactus and became a volunteer. Excuse me, became a volunteer, and then one of the coaches on the staff couldn't coach, and so I got elevated to receivers and a paid position. But it was funny because I was working at Walmart at the time, so basically my schedule was I would work from Walmart from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and then from 7 to about 7 when I got out of work, 8 o'clock I had to go to class. And so I go to class from 8 to, I don't know, 8 to 11, get home, take a little nap, and then walk or ride a bike to practice, go to practice, get home from practice around 5, take another little cat nap, and then go back to work and just repeat that cycle. And so camp was coming up, and one of my coaches happened to be walking in Walmart and saw me in the Walmart. I was like, "Yo, what are you doing here?" I said, "This is where I work." And nobody really knew that I worked there. And they were like, "I thought you were just going to school." I'm like, "Nah, I got to make a living for myself because I'm basically out here on my own." And so they were like, "Yo, this is crazy." So I told them I couldn't go to camp because in the transition from me moving from California to Arizona, Walmart, I guess, took that out of my personal time and said all my time was up. So the head coach at the time was like, "All right, that's fine. Well, just quit your job." And I was like, "What do you mean quit your job?" He was like, "Just quit your job. I'll get you a job on campus." And so I was like, "All right." So I told him I quit, and went to camp. And that was my first experience at camp. And it was such an amazing experience. And so we get out and we get to the season, and we're rolling. We're 5-0. Marcus's team, he's still coaching our team back in California, and they're rolling. So it was like, all right, listen, let's make a bet, because we were not liking the fact that we were split. And so I was like, all right, well, whoever teams go the furthest, then you come, and if I'll come back there or you come here. And so it's funny. We're playing we get to the playoffs. We're playing in the semifinals, and we end up winning the game 9-6. And so my quarterback had threw 4 interceptions to the same guy in the end zone in the game, and I'm just kind of like, what I'm saying? Like, oh my
Quit
gosh.
throwing to that guy.
I'm like, do you know him? Like, y'all friends? Like, what's going on? And so we end up winning the game. So I called Marcus, was like, "Yo, you got to come out here for the state championship game." And so he came out, and we ended up winning the state championship. And he was a man of his word. And on January 1st, we packed up I flew out to California on the 20th. It was around Christmas time, and then Yeah, it was around Christmas. Went to Christmas, spent Christmas in California, and then on January 1st, we drove back to Arizona. On the put everything he had in the U-Haul and drove back to Arizona, and then he started coaching with me at Cactus. And so it's funny because we're big USC fans, and that was the night that Vince Young did that remarkable game against the Trojans in the Rose Bowl. So we're
The
driving.
best game.
Yes, we're driving, listening to this game, going crazy because Vince Young and Reggie Bush is laddering the ball to nobody, and all this crazy stuff going on, and we're driving, trying to figure out what's going on because we're listening to it on the radio. I'll never forget that drive. And so so once we got here at Cactus, we had a good run. We went undefeated our first year, 14-0, won the state championship. A couple years later, in 2000, so this is 2005, and then 2009. We won the state championship again. And then in 2010, we had another opportunity at another state championship, but we fell short to Desert Edge in the semis. And so, like I said, it's funny that we were coaching at Cactus. We lost to Desert Edge, which kind of propelled Desert Edge into a different level. And then here we are coaching at Desert Edge, which is crazy how everything just goes in full circle. And so then that to 2010, we decided that we were going to move to Kennesaw, Georgia, and take our talents back east to kind of get a different, outlook on football. Because at this time we were like, yo, this is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. Like let's invest in what we're trying to do. And so, mom always told us if we're going to do something, do it at 100%. Don't deviate from the plan. Trust God and go from there. And so that's what we did. So we stepped out on faith and went to Kennesaw, Georgia, coached at Kennesaw Mountain for 2 years. And it was one of the things where that was the first time I coached lower levels. I'd always been a varsity coach, but then I coached that year. Marks and I took over the JV team, and together, I think that was the first time that we were able, because the coach at the time was a newer coach and he was just focused on varsity, you know what I'm saying? And so he was like, hey, you guys just have this, make sure the kids come back, make sure the kids have fun, that kind of thing. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. And so then, that was the first time Marks and I got to spend that time with just he and I and a group of boys, and just, and we got those boys to believe. They came up with their own moniker. We won a bunch of games. It was funny because the varsity players were hearing about what was going on the JV and wanted to come play down on JV because we were just having so much fun. It wasn't one of those things where we were super just, total line, do these kind of things. We were just like, listen, he said, make sure they have fun, make sure they come back, and make sure, they enjoy the game. And that's exactly what we did. And I think that's kind of where our coaching style kind of transformed, because the gentleman Larry Feckenheimer that we coached with at Cactus, he's in the Arizona Hall of Fame. He might be in the high school football Hall of Fame from all the games he's won. He was more of a, for lack of a better term, more of a, I'm gonna say drill sergeant, but he worked really, 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 really hard. And I think the relationship building process was done with most of his assistant coaches. And so he was just kind of the head at the table, and then everything just trickled down from him. But he worked us, hard. And then it was funny because right after we got done with football, we would go to a different school and coach basketball right after the season was over. And we coached with Todd Nelson, who's he's a Hall of Fame girls basketball coach. So we got to see him coach, and he was just he was just super, just relaxed. Like he let those girls just do, it was so funny. He would just kneel on the floor the entire practice and just let the girls run around. He would coach them. He barely yelled. He did all this, and then, so we're looking at two different dynamics. We're looking at somebody who was really into it, who was really, just straightforward, straight line. And we had another guy who was kind of loose. And so Marcus and I decided this is kind of where we want to be in between. We want to work really, really hard, but we figured you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And so, the biggest thing I've come to find out, and just kind of looking back in retrospect, is X's and O's matter, but if you get those kids to believe, then anything is possible. And so, our biggest thing was getting the kids to believe, and that JV year at Kennesaw Mountain showed us like this is kind of how we want to run things. And that year, I still to this day talk to those boys that were on that team. Like, Marcus and I have a Madden league that we do with a bunch of boys, at the end of the season. And there's a number of kids, or they're not kids anymore, they're grown men with kids now, but those gentlemen from that JV team are in that league. And
it's a Madden, John Madden.
Yeah. So, yep. Yeah. The connected franchise.
Yep. Madden right there. Sega Genesis.
Yep. Yep. And so,
dude, I don't know why I put that up there yesterday.
No,
I just
beautiful.
was like, I'm gonna put that up there. I like John Madden, and I used to play that game all the time. And I had an old school, so maybe I know now. So like, y'all are an assistant coach, and y'all are what I call the heart. Y'all are the heart of the team. The head coach is like the head, but y'all are the heart because y'all got the connection. You can connect with the players, and you can touch them in a place that is their heart and love. And that's what makes y'all special. That's why y'all win. That's why y'all are able to go wherever you go and connect. And like last year when I started this podcast, I had a coach ask me, he said, Troy, I'm at this school and like the kids tell me that I can't relate to them, that I look different than them. And then after talking to about 100 different coaches, I found out that it didn't matter what you look like. It was that you were genuine and that you had that love and you had that connection. So talk about that, because there's a coach out there right now that might be watching who they don't know how to do that. Who did that for y'all? Where did y'all learn that from? And why is that important?
Well, like Mark said, our father and our mother had a way of just talking to people and just getting people to understand it and believe,
talking to people.
Yeah. And yeah. And so what we would hear a lot is that because when we started coaching, we were, genuinely younger. And so we would hear a lot, hey man, you can't be friends with the kids. Don't be too buddy with the kids. Don't do, just that aspect. And that always bothered me because like, it doesn't matter if you have respect for somebody and you generally love somebody, then when it's time to work and it's time to play. Like you would be like some of these older coaches would literally hate our practices. They would hate our pregame inside the locker room because of the old style, Mark and I were like that too. When we first got to Desert Edge, we had obviously taken a lot from Coach Feckenheimer and Coach Nelson. And so like, Coach Feckenheimer was like in the locker room, on the bus, be quiet. If you got headphones, put them in. You just don't talk. There's nothing, right? And so, when we got to Desert Edge, it was like different. We had like a different type of players. And obviously that was 10 to 12 years ago. So the kids evolve. And so, at first it was like, stand straight line, headphones in, blah, blah, blah. And we weren't just getting the most out of the kids. I was like, Mark, it's not working. And so we just allowed them to be themselves. When it comes to uniform, Mark is a uniform guy. So like when it comes to uniforms, you can't really go off track with that. But anything else, it goes. As long as you stay within the box of what we have as a football program, then you can do whatever you do. And we just seen the whole change in the program. Kids are joking and they're laughing and they're loose and they know with that expectation, with that leeway comes great expectation. And so like when they go out in the game, so every game, they come out with their chains. They don't come out with their knee pads. Their pants are up like the pros. They're wearing.
Are knee pads a big deal in Arizona high school?
Oh my gosh, it's a huge deal.
What is the deal with referees and knee pads? Nick Saban and Bill Belichick don't care about knee pads.
Our knee pads are this big, like literally circles. So it's not like it's protecting anything. It's just there. And so, we're dancing and stuff before the pregame, and officials will come up to us every single time. It was like, all right, coach. First of all, they don't. First of all, they don't know who the head coaches are. They go to everybody else besides me and my brother. First of all, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we've been coaching here for 10 years, and you still don't know who we are. Um, and so, but they'll say, coaches are the players legally and properly equipped, and we would say, not right now, they're not, but they will be when they come out. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
The
And so
uniform
and
police.
they have their chains and stuff on, and I'm like, well, they have their chains. It won't be any issue when the game starts and stuff like that. So our kids love that we trust them enough to let them be themselves and let them get pumped up and get hyped up in the way that they want to get hyped up and get pumped up. Like in our locker room, it's a fashion show before the games. We got music blasting like a concert. You literally have to be next to someone to talk to them because it's so loud, and the kids are rapping and the kids are singing and the kids are dancing. But that's how they get worked up. That's how they get into their mode, and we're not going to stop that just because we are egotistical, and it's like, hey, I want to be quiet. Like now, I can put my headphones in and block out the noise, and so let the boys be the boys, and they get to pick music for practice and our practices. They're dancing. We have dance breaks at our practices and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's a family atmosphere. It doesn't feel like practice. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't have to feel like practice in order for you to get stuff done. And I think our kids love that.
I think what gets lost as coaches is we get this mindset of, do as I say and not as I do type of deal.
Mm.
And I think what separates Marcus and I think a young coach or any coach can, take this is, as adults, we expect the kids to trust us first, right? We expect the kids to trust us and believe in us and do all these things rather than us being the adults and putting ourselves out there first and showing them what it is to love, what it is to trust, what it is to
Ooh.
respect. So we lead by example first. So when we came to Desert Edge, it gives me chills. Marcus straight up told the kids, like, listen, I don't know you. We just met, but I love you and I
Yes.
respect you. And
Yes.
that's how it's gonna be from this point on. And they're kind of looking like, you don't even know us. He was like, I don't gotta know you to know that I love you and I respect you. And so I'm telling you right now, this is what it's gonna be. And so when you're a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, and these grown men come in there, and the first thing that they say to you is, hey man, I love you and I respect you,
Man.
and I'm gonna show you what this
Let's
is
go.
about. They're gonna be like, all right. But normally you come in, you're like, okay, hey, we're gonna do it like this, we're gonna do it like that. And the kids are kind of like, who is this guy and what's going on and what's he trying to do? But when you come in with something so powerful and you just say, listen, I'm gonna give myself to you first, and then we'll see if you can reciprocate it. And
That's
if you
love.
don't, and if you don't know how to reciprocate it, let me coach you up and let me show you. And then, and Marcus is right. Like, they would have music in the locker room, and I would be, so we have a field house and then we have like a little separate room. I would be in there just going crazy. Like, I would be like, turn the music off. Like, how are they going to do? Like, this is crazy. And Mark's like, Mark, just relax, just chill. Let's just see it. Let's just see how it works. I'm like, yo, like,
So you're the
we're
uptight one.
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna go out there and get beat 50-0 because they're in there dancing to Drake. And so then we come out and we go 8-0, and we get to the Open Championship, something that's never been done to schools. So, like one of the first 5A schools to go to the state championship, or to the Open Championship. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, I guess he was right. I guess it works. And so from that point forward, it's just kind of one of those things where our locker room and stuff like that is just going crazy. So
Yeah, my sister just texted me. She was like, "Great words. You lead with love," and it reminded me of um, when I did the interview for Desert Edge. Man, so we weren't even going to go to Desert Edge because we had built something at South Mountain for 4 years. The story of South Mountain. When we first got there, they had won like 6 games in like 6 years.
CTC.
CTC, yeah, and they won 6 games in 6 years, and then we end up leaving. When we left, we were region champs, the most wins in program history in a long time. We beat a team that we never beat in school history. We started off with 9 players, and by the time we left South Mountain, we had like 170 players in the program. The most out of all the programs inside the district, and the Phoenix Union is a huge district, and so it was literally hard, like one of the hardest things to ever had to do with leaving South Mountain.
Marcus, I'm
Um,
going to cut you off, but people, and I think we get the opportunity to, actually say it now, is that we almost didn't go to Desert Edge. Like we almost didn't go, and a lot of people felt like we just left South Mountain, and it wasn't like that. Like it was crazy because one day I'd be like, "Nah, let's just stay," and then Marcus would be like, "Let's just go." And then you go the next day and it'll be like, you know what? I thought about what you said last night. Let's go. No, I thought about what you said, and I think we should stay. And so it was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a good, what's say, Marcus, week and a half, 2 weeks.
yeah,
Uh, you know, and just trying to decide. And you know, South, we don't, people don't, South Mountain, we don't get Desert Edge without South. We don't get Desert Edge without South Mountain. And so, what we were able to do at South Mountain was just one of those things where, all the culmination of relationship building and getting people to believe and doing all that came to fruition. It came to a head, and you know, it was 1 in 10, and it was funny because we went 1 in 10, and the next off season we had more players. So we were kind of like, we figured like, oh, we went 1 in 10. People were like, oh, it's the same old South Mountain. We're not gonna win anything, whatever. But the word around campus was, yo, you got to come play football, man. It's so fun. It is so fun to come out there and play, play for them. And so then we have more players. So then we go 5-5, and then the next year we go 6-4. We're literally 14 points from
mhm,
winning the region that year, and so we were right on the cusp. And so now, because Marcus and I say, okay, listen, we're going to teach you guys how to actually play football first. Then we're going to teach you how to win games. And then once we teach you how to win games, now we can get into all the extra stuff. And so when we hit that 5-5, um, kids were like, oh, okay, because it's funny because that 5-5 season, we went off 5 games in a row. The first five, we won the first 5 games. And
mhm.
so now the city's on fire, the school's on fire, we're undefeated. And then, we had some really crucial injuries, and then we lose 5 in a row. And so it's like you went up like this, and then you just crash down. But it taught us a good lesson about adversity. It taught us a good lesson about being resilient, because again, more kids came back the next year. And then we had started a junior team, and which was kind of cool because most middle school teams are coached by other coaches. Our whole varsity staff coached the junior high team, so we would
How?
go from spring ball to coaching the junior team. And it took Marks and I back. I remember Marks and I used to have conversations like, yo, this is back when we first started, like this is so much fun. And that was like back coaching that junior team just sparked something back in us that was just kind of like, yo, we were back. And so we did that. And then once we brought those boys, man, we had so many freshmen. So this had never been done at South. We had so many freshmen that the freshman team, the starters, would play only till half. And then they would go into halftime and take off all their uniform and stuff and give it to the kids who hadn't played yet, so then they can get a chance to play. We had that many kids and we didn't have enough equipment. And
Wow.
so, but that's just parents in the neighborhood. A lot of kids would transfer out of the area to go to different schools because they felt like they had a better,
Opportunity.
better opportunity. But the kids started staying, and then the family started seeing the investment that Marks and I and our coaching staff had put in, and so they were trusting us to keep their kids, at South. And so once we did that, I give a lot of credit to Patrick Breen, Cheryl, Richard Obert, because they are the ones who kind of propelled our career, because they did a documentary on us. And so being at South Mountain, and kind of an area where it was not a lot of media attention and things like that, we were kind of what we were doing at South Mountain was being seen, but it wasn't really being seen because you have your upper echelon type of programs going on. And so this documentary just propelled us. It got excuse me, it got to show people who we are and what we were about. And it came on every Wednesday, Marcus? Every
Yeah,
Wednesday,
never was there.
every Wednesday. So everybody in the state, we get to see these episodes of these kids and these coaches, just grinding and going through these things. And I will say that I think that we had got Coach of the Year that year for the National Football Foundation because people were able to see what we were doing. And it was very unfortunate because that year we went 7-3. We're averaging like 45 points a game.
Mhm.
We were beating the last 5 games. We had dropped 50, and we were so fresh because when we got on a roll, our starters didn't play past halftime in any game in region, or actually only one game in region. And so we were like, yo, playoffs, whatever. And then at 7-3, we didn't we won our region and we didn't get into the playoffs. And so, at that particular point, Marcus and I had to make a decision. It's like, we know what we're doing, we know we want to be, and are we hitting our head on the glass ceiling? And it felt like one of the hardest things to do was to make that decision. And it's kind of funny, and it shows kind of what how we feel in our character, is that we felt guilty, and it was a hard decision to make a decision. 14 or something, you're 15, and for 15 years we've been so conditioned in our mind to make decisions based on other people. Now that we had to make a decision based on ourselves, it was really, really tough. And so once we made that decision, and we decided, the backlash that we received didn't really make me mad. It just kind of hurt because of all the different things that we have did for that community, all the things that we did for those kids. Everything we did was kind of like for naught because we're trying to progress in our careers. And I felt like, why do we have to sacrifice our goals to help other people achieve their goals when we can still achieve our goals and help them along the way? And just kind of one of those things where we're just kind of, hurt or whatever. And so then now we go to Desert Edge, and then, Marcus.
So when I told my wife about the possibility of going to Desert Edge, the first thing, like literally the first thing she said was, "What about the junior team?" And I was like, I was like, babe, like the junior team, like is like separate from the high school. Like it's together, but it's separate. And all my wife could think about was like the kids, the kids. My wife wasn't a football person before she met me. And so, even my love for young people and kids and helping kids even, radiated towards her. And all she could think about was the kids. And so we go into the interview. I go into the interview, and it's like a panel, and it was the principal, some counselors, the Stugo president, the basketball coach, the booster club president, and all just sitting at this table. And I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, this is it, this is it. And so the lady's first question, she was like, she didn't ask me tell me my name or anything like that. She's like, you know, tell me, what does football mean to you? And I said, okay. I took a drink, boom, sat my drink down, and I just started crying
Mm-hmm.
in this interview. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh no. I'm thinking to myself as I'm crying, like, I just blew this opportunity, and I didn't even have the chance to speak. You know what I'm saying? And I was just crying, and then I kept saying, I'm sorry to the people. I'm sorry. And they were like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I can't believe I just blew this. And so then I got myself together, and then I said, football changed my life. Like
Amen.
I have no idea where I would be or what I would be doing if it wasn't for football. Like I can't even imagine what else I would be doing if it wasn't for football. And they were like, and just start writing stuff down, just whatever. And then, my brother and I had to start the Booster Club over at South Mountain. We had to learn how to start the Booster Club and run the Booster Club. My wife and his wife, collaborated on making sure that things worked because South hadn't had a Booster Club in 10 years. And so we had to manage that. Then we had to manage people. And so when we were done with the interview, I was thinking to myself like, oh, all right, this is cool. Everything worked out. And then I was leaving, and the basketball coach at the time was like, he was like, hey, I got one question. I got one question. I'm thinking to myself, like, bro, I this was over. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the question should be over. He's like, I got one question. And I was like, sure. And he made sure everybody was listening. It was like, how do we know what happened at South basically wasn't luck? How do we
Mm,
know that wasn't just lightning in a bottle, and that you guys could do what you did over there at Desert Edge? And I'm thinking to
mhm.
myself, like, this dude right here, like, what? And I said, you know what? And I said, you know what, sir? Because we lead with love. We lead our football team with love. And love will get you past anything. Love doesn't always have to feel good. Love is correction. Love is, being respectful. Love is hard too. Sometimes. And so, we lead with love, and I believe that the way me and my brother love on these kids and love our programs, um, then we're not gonna have any issues wherever we go. And he was like, great answer, great answer. And I'm thinking to myself, like, bro, like, and so I go to the gas station right after, and I call my wife. I said, babe, I blew it. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, I got 2 seconds into the interview and started crying, like hysterically crying. And she was like, no, no, no. That's what they needed to see, that because they needed to see how much you love football and how much you love the kids and how much you love what you do. They need to see your passion. And so we had a conversation. And I called Mark. I'm like, bro. He's like, what? I'm like, I blew it, bro. Like, I just started crying in the interview. He was like, you started crying? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, she asked me what a football mean to me. He was like, well, I guess I can see why you started crying. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, no, but I think I'm pretty sure you did a good job. And then, he said, I know you're going to do a good job. And it's crazy because when Mark and I would go to different interviews, we interviewed over a bunch of schools from South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. We drove 10 hours to Florida from when we lived in Georgia to apply for a job. But what we would do is we would have our phones in our pocket and we would record the interview. And so
Ooh,
when we got when we got back into the car, we'd plug the interview up inside the car so we could hear it in the speakers or whatever, and then we would critique each other on what we
y'all
could
should be the one with the podcast, not
have.
me.
Well, we could critique each other on what we should have said here, how we should have said it here. Maybe you talked a little bit too much here. Maybe you didn't talk enough about this right here. And we would sit in there and we would listen to the interview over and over and see how to critique it and get better and learn how to interview, a lot better and stuff like that. And so we did it. We listened to the interview. He was like, bro, I think you got it. I mean, regardless of the fact, if we didn't get it, we can always go to South, and then go back to South, and we end up getting it, and we come here, and what Mark talked about the video. I think the video um, helped us because sometimes when you go into a new head coaching position, the kids have to fill you out, right? The kids have to fill you out. They got to see how you are. They got to see how you act. The parents got to see how you are, and and see how you act. But they got to see us for an entire season on camera, like the camera followed us and did everything. And so they got to see us. And then once we had that first meeting, I told them I loved them. First of all, I told them I love God, and I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm not gonna be ashamed of that. And like, if that's not something that you do, then that's fine. But I'm not gonna not tell you that I love God. You know what I'm saying? And so the kids, I remember a kid came up to me after our first time meeting him. He was like, you know what, coach? I'm not even religious, but like after hearing you speak, like I want to get to know God more. And I was like, wow. I was like, wow. And so now the kids are like fully locked in because they're like, wow, I want to get to know the Lord. And I'm like, you know what? That's even better than football. At this point, like that's even better than football. Just learning to love the Lord.
You're
And
changing
that's it.
lives.
Yeah, and that's it. And I was
Y'all are
like,
vessels. Y'all are
yes,
vessels.
100%. And I believe that. And Mark talks about it in some interviews is like, we thank God that we were able to figure out our purpose when we were younger. A lot of people don't find their purpose until they're 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they're like, man, I wish I would have had time to reach more people and do like that. We were literally shown our purpose at a younger age, and we got to fulfill it. We got to walk in that purpose, and I think that's special, more special than anything. And then, Desert Edge. Then we go to COVID. Man, we were in COVID, so we meet the boys in February. School shuts down in March. We got spring ball. Everybody's like, what are we gonna do for spring ball? And I'm like, no, we're gonna have practice. And so all of our kids have one-to-one Chromebooks, like laptops.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mark and I wrote out practice, and we got with my coaches, and we went to the South. We told the South coaches, anybody that want to come, you guys are going to come with us, because you're a part of the maturation of our coaching career, and you know how we are. We need to bring you guys with us. Some came, some didn't, but
They know the culture.
yes, 100%. And
They
so
know how y'all do things.
yep, and that's the most important part is having people that trust you and you trust them, because in this culture world, you never know. It's hard. And so we would have the kids in the garages, in their rooms, in their backyards, get out of space. And the coaches, we would go into breakout rooms, and we would obviously we would have everybody on the screen, and everybody would stretch together, and so we could see them. So we'd have make them have their screen facing them so we could see them. And then we would go in breakout rooms, and we were literally having kids in their homes running drills on air. And instead of doing instead of doing team periods and stuff like that, we would break down film and show them like our terminology and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally had a spring practice. There were reporters inside the breakout rooms, like, wow, we can't believe, like, this is crazy, like, this is so innovative. And which helped us because during COVID you couldn't be around each other, and so we had a full-on 2 week, we do it every day, 2 week spring practice virtually. And the kids loved it. The kids, but that showed the kids like they're really trying. You know what I'm saying? We're really trying. And so we end up going 8-0 that season. We went undefeated. Our first year with the team, we went undefeated during COVID, and we went to the Open. And so the Open is like the Open is like the college football playoff. All right, so the top 8 teams, regardless of classification, they go into this special playoff, and then you play in the playoff. So, but we had to play. I make this joke all the time, University of Chandler, because when we played Chandler, they were 5th in the nation. We got like 1,700 kids. They got 4,000 kids. Like, it was like David and Goliath, like literally David and Goliath, and we lost 52-0. Right, but we were there, and in order to lose 52-0 in a championship, in the Open, you got to get to the Open. You know what I'm saying? And so we were the first Black head coaches to go to the Open. We were the first coaches in our district to go to the Open, and so that meant a lot to us. We were always looking at, like, once we got I don't want to say our kids, but once we got the kids for a whole 4 years, then we would want to get back into the Open. And then we missed it by a game, but we ended up going to the championship, and basically winning the championship, and the rest is history from there.
I want to ask y'all about your mom and dad, because y'all said something key about your mom and dad, that they knew how to talk to people. And everybody's heard the saying that how you do something, or what is that saying? How you do something is how
you do everything.
Yeah. So like how you treat someone is how you treat everyone. And your parents knew how to talk to people. Your parents knew what love was, and they loved you. And then your dad passes away, and your brother loves you, and he takes care of you. And that's what the great coaches do. Like Customato, he poured into Mike Tyson. Y'all are pouring into those kids. So, like, y'all's mom and dad, are they the main ones? Are they the ones that taught y'all? And you talked about your sister, you lead with love. Like,
so it's funny because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about all the similarities and stuff. And my dad, is a person that, like, if the ice cream truck came over and he would see us out, he would see us, hey, you guys want some ice cream? Whatever kid was in the area he was buying them ice cream too. It wasn't like, well, I'm just getting you ice cream. He's like, hey, come here, you want some ice cream? And so thinking about that is funny, because I have myself, my wife, and my son. But my mom taught me how to cook, and my mom, when she cooks a lot at a time,
Hmm.
and so I only know how to cook is a lot. So I have a 7-year-old, and my wife and I cook. But what I do is I take the leftovers to school. And so, every day I have about 50 to 60 kids in my class at lunch, whether it be cheerleaders, whether it be pommies, whether it be basketball players, football players, kids in the back playing Pokemon. It's just a safe space on campus for kids from all walks of life to come, and I would just give them the leftovers. I would just come, I have burritos from the night before. I'd be like, all right, here, you get it. And we would just alternate. Hey, I gave you some yesterday. I got some for this person today. And so that kind of thing where kids know, like they get mad when I don't show them, if I show up and what you got today, coach? Listen, I'm ordering some Uber Eats today. Man, what, come on, you didn't cook last night? I'm like, nah, man, like, sorry, bro. It was a late night last night. I didn't get a chance to cook, and so, if a kid, it needs a player pack, Marks and I buy it. If a kid needs shoes, Marks and I we collect sneakers. I'll go grab some sneakers out of my collection and give them a pair of shoes. Whatever kids need, it's just that mindset of, if one eats, then we're all going to eat. And my dad was a huge proponent of that, and it didn't matter. And then, on the flip, my mom was our first coach. She was our very first coach. Like, she was like, we played basketball and we had a team, and she was our first coach, and she kept it very simple. She kept it very simple, for lack of a better term. She kept it very simple, and we got it done. And just seeing her and her being able to relate to kids, and it's funny because we went to the school across town because they had a teaching magnet. And so we went to the school to become, to do teaching stuff in high school. And so I think we always knew that we wanted to be around kids and wanted to teach. And my mom honed on that skill, like when we got to college, she got us the laptops, she did those kind of things to propel us, to push us to be great. And so, she works in politics. So, if you're going to be someone,
Wow.
you're going to work somebody in
She's a
politics.
politician?
Yeah, and so she knows how to
And this
politic.
is the way that she does things and that she acts? And she's in
You know,
public service? I thought public service was an oxymoron. Nobody I
no,
know of in
she's
public service is even about the public, and
She's
they
for the
definitely ain't
people.
never
Nah,
served
she's
nobody.
definitely for the people. She's
yeah,
definitely for the
Wow.
people.
for
Why
sure.
is she not running for president?
And
I
so,
teach government, man. I ain't gonna get started about that, but
so just seeing them and watching them move, man, like, and seeing the things that they've done, like I said, having this conversation with you right now just kind of puts things in perspective, because I really didn't realize, how much those little things that we saw, were just intertwined with stuff, just, living through hard stuff and being able to adjust and adapt. I mean, one of the hardest things that I think I've ever had to do was, Marks and I, we ended up getting a job at Coronado High School in Arizona. That was the reason why we came back to Arizona from Georgia, was we flew. It's funny because we got the call. We flew standby from Georgia to Arizona. We slept in the Georgia airport, going back and forth, and then we ended up sleeping at the Georgia airport for 2 days. Then we got to Utah, had to stay in Utah, and finally made it to Arizona to get in the interview. So we go to the interview, we do the interview. The next day they call us and we got the job. So we're like, yo, we're pumped. It's our first head coaching job. We're like, yo, this is lit. We this is it. So we get back there, we tell the coaches, like, listen, because we had worked with Ryan Andrews at Banneker High School, and we got to the playoffs for the first time in a really long time. Shout out to Ryan, because he gave us an opportunity that nobody else gave us. He just said, hey, listen, here's my team. And I know what y'all can do. Help me get it done. And we got it done. And so then on the way back, we were moving. So I told my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she moved back to Arizona to get us a place to live and get everything situated for, us three. And then on the drive back, we're in New Mexico. I'll never forget this. We're driving back to New Mexico, and the school calls. And so we stop at a rest stop. I'm like, hey, what's going on? and they tell us, hey, there are some things that came up. We're just gonna have to let you know right now that we're gonna have to rescind the job. I'm like, what?
Mm.
And so they're like, yeah, we have to take the job back. There's some things, which in retrospect was a blessing, because the journey from that point, kind of veered us into where we are now. But just hearing that, and I wanted to cry. Like, I begged that lady. I'm like, listen, lady, reconsider. Like, my wife just moved her whole, we moved our whole family up there. I just quit my job in Georgia. Like, I'm on the way. Like, I'm literally in New Mexico right now. And she didn't budge. And so, to Marcus and I had to come up with something to tell my wife that we no longer have a head coaching job. And so, we have a state and a half to go to think of something. And then, it was funny because we got there, and then a buddy of mine, his name was John Clanton. That's my guy. I still, to this day, he's a brother of mine. But was you gonna say something, Marcus?
Yeah, he actually worked for the tip of the spear.
Yeah, so he worked for Tip of the Spear. Yeah, he worked
Scott
for Tip of the
Peters.
Spear. So, yep, Scott Peters. So it's crazy. Real quick, is Scott. I've worked with Scott Peters before. He came to our school at South
Nice.
and did demonstrations with us. And I love the Tip of the Spear. Shout out to my man Scott. And so then so we get there, and he gives us a job at his school because we still want to coach, so we're assistants or whatnot. And then it was funny, on a Wednesday, probably like week 3, calls Marcus, and I was like, hey, listen, I just fired the coordinators. You guys are the coordinators. I see you at practice. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. So we're spread guys, and Marcus is a 4-2-5 guy. And so, they're running wing T and they're running odd front. So we're literally installing certain plays throughout the week and then just seeing how it looks on Friday. And we told John, like, yo, John, like, this is a kind of a thing where we're just kind of getting everything rolling. Let's get a summer, let's get everything popping, and we're gonna make it happen. He was like, all right. So he trusted us with that. We got some kids on campus to come out and play, and those kind of things. And then, we end up having a 7-3 year, or 6-4, 7-3 year at Central. And that's ultimately what got us the job at South. And I love my man's because he could have kept us, but he was pushing us to be head coaches because he knew our pedigree. He knew what was going on. Like, we went through these interviews and we had this panel thing, and he was in front row, supporting us and doing those kind of things. And so just him showing us, again, this whole thing is love, man. Like, he didn't have to do that for us. You know what I'm saying? And so he did that. And then, and so now, just kind of looking back at it, and you talk about our parents, without them and their ability to, speak, and their ability to do those kind of things, Marcus and I are not who we are. You can put us in a room with multi-billionaires, and we'll fit. And it's just a fluidity, and that being able. So my mom was the one that, hey mom, how do you spell such and such? She would get up, go grab a dictionary, and give us a dictionary and be like, yo, look it up. And then once you get done looking it up, let me know the definition of what the word means. And so she was on that. You know what I mean? She was school, like, on that. You're gonna graduate, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna do those kind of things. And when my dad was more relaxed and fluid, and so to take his swagger and his persona, and then take my mom's vocabulary and verbiage and things like that, we call it the cheat code.
I'm sure my mom is gonna send us a text later saying, "Oh, you used the wrong word here. You should have said this." She's always
Well,
correcting.
she's really going to be upset with me because I can't speak. Have you ever heard somebody with a dialect like mine?
Oh yeah, this like from Georgia, man. Georgia. I love the accents. I love the accents. I think it's great. But she's gonna later on. She's gonna say, "Hey, you did well, but you should have said this, and you used the wrong word here." And I'm like, "Mom." So that's what we have a little text group with our family and my brothers and sisters. And I'm like, "Mom, I'm gonna show you I'm gonna show you this interview, but you can't grade me on the way I talk in this interview." And she's like, "No, I'm gonna grade you anyway, so you might as well just send it." So that's just how it is.
And one thing too, I think in the the talking to the being able to lead with love. I think if you ask all of our assistant coaches, right, because like you said earlier, the assistant coaches are the heart. They're the heart of the operation. And Marcus and I, have always been told, because we wanted to be head coaches like Ralph again. We're like, yo, we need to be head coaches. We need to be head coaches. We need to be head coaches.
Hmm.
But come to find out, you can't learn how to lead unless you know how to follow.
Yeah, you
And
can't take
so
like that's you can what is it? You can't give orders until you know how to take orders.
Right.
yes, yeah. And so
Everybody
being
wants
able
to give them now.
and so now that we've have done that, we've been on the other side, and we do the same thing with our assistant coaches. Like, we tell those guys we love them all the time. Those are like my brothers. Like, they have a birthday party, we're there. They have, a wedding renewal, whatever, we're there. Anything that's has to do with family, Marcus and I make it a point to be there, if not all the time, but 90% of the time, because we want them to understand that this is not just about football. So if it's not just about football, and that, if you need me for anything, if your kids need me, whatever, when I correct you in film, you know where it's coming from. If I'm telling you like, hey, I need this done, you didn't do it correctly the first time. It's not like some boss telling you something. It's like your brother or your homeboy telling you, hey, listen, this is what's going on. So you're going to be a lot more receptive to the critique. You're going to be a lot more receptive to the correction. And I think that's really important, especially in the day and age that we live in. And so, we tell our coaches are, we Marcus and I are doing a better job at it now as far as delegating. But I know all of our coaches feel valued. Man, these little stipends we get, man, or you use those stipends in gas, you use those stipends in helping kids with this and helping kids with that. Like, you don't even really see the stipend, as far as coaching, because it's going to something else. And so the least Marcus and I can do is give those gentlemen some power, give them some what's the word I'm looking for? Give them a purpose, and give them something to lean on.
Ownership.
That way.
You're giving them
Yeah,
ownership.
yeah, ownership. And well, part of it is, one of our mentors, Mark Wood. The first thing he did when he sat us down is said, "Listen, leaders read and readers lead." And so we got into reading books and reading different things on leadership and, the growth mindset and, all these different things. And we started learning those things and incorporating it in our program. And like, man, like I'll tell you right now, I will do my damnedest. If we were to ever leave Desert Edge, I got to take this whole staff with us, because it's just everything is just it just flows, and everything is so good. Like, I don't have to tell my D line coach what's going on this day, on this time, on this whatever, because he just knows, because he was our very first hire, and he's been with us every step of the way. And then we got our DB coaches, and all of our coaches that are on our staff for the most part have been with us for 2 to 3 years minimum, but it seems like a lifetime, man. Like, I love those dudes. And one of the greatest joys that I was able to have this year was, and I told them I was going to do this. I was going to be the first one off the bus, so I could stand at the front of the bus and look at everybody's face when they got off the bus, just to see that joy, coaches included. And every single one that came off the bus, I was just looking at them. I was just nodding my head like, "Yep, we here. Yep, we here. Yep, we here." And just being able to see all the hard work, because we work hard, man. Like, I mean, I know people on social media see us and see our videos and see, different things that we do that promotes our program. But man, we work hard, man. Like, we have some coaches who are going to be coaching the junior team, while Marcus and I are coaching the track team, because all of our boys at our school, if they're not playing baseball or boys volleyball, they are running track. It's not like a if thing. They're voluntold that they're running track, because we're built on speed. We have guys who are really, really fast, and they just don't know how to run. So we have a great, sprinters coach, Sherrod Self, who graduated from Oklahoma State. He comes down there, and Marcus and I, we know enough to not know about track, that we delegate that to him to do that. Marcus does a triple and long jump. I do like the scheduling and managing, and I do the hurdles. But as far as the speed and conditioning and strength and stuff like that, we give that to Coach Jordan, who's our strength coach, and we give that to Coach Self, who's our sprinters coach. So Marcus and I have learned over the years to how to delegate and give people responsibility. And once you give those people that responsibility, it just blows up. And that's mom right there. That's mom right there.
Hey, Mom, you did a great job. I never even talked to your sons until this morning, but I did a little research. They sent me some articles, and I read about them, and they're impressive. And I knew they were impressive, so I knew we were going to have an awesome podcast because, you know, a lot of people want to divide us because we may look differently, or I may be from Virginia, y'all may be from Cali, but dude, in the end, we're more alike than we are different.
Oh man, for sure.
And there might be a person you look just like, but you ain't got nothing in common with them.
Right.
And
so, man, it's just, you know, our coaches, man, like, you know, it's kind of cliche, you know, people want to talk about my coaches, but you know, man, those guys, man, they work hard. They do it for little or no pay. And man, look, I'm telling you what, we have 18 coaches. And I'm gonna tell you what, we don't have 18 stipends.
They love it.
So they love it, and they don't complain. They don't, you know, none of that. And I think that's that whole leading with love and empowering and all that stuff that comes, you know. Marcus and I have a rule in our program, and there's no one bigger than this program, not even Marcus and I. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, if something needs to change from the top, we'll change it from the top. Everything falls on us, but everybody is equal. You know what I mean? So, you know, the thing that makes me mad the most with my coaches is if they're late to practice or they're late to, you know, some function, because if a kid is late, now I can't say nothing to the kid, because if the adult is late, what I'm going to say to the kid. And so, because everybody's held to the same standard, and if you late and I'm not going to say anything to you because you're a grown man, then when that child shows up late, I'm not going to say anything to the child because the adults are late. So what we gonna do? And so now I get to get on the adult, and the kids see me say, hey man, like you can't be late because now you late. Now this person's late. Now this person's late. And so that coach understands what I'm saying to him. He's not listening to how I'm saying it. He's listening to what I'm saying, and he's seeing and knowing that the kid is there. So now the kid's like, dang, I just got coach yelled at.
Yeah,
but it's a whole thing. And so we have a mindset. The coaches know. I told them I'm gonna do it. And so now the kid's like, yo, I can't be late no more, because now he's getting on Coach Brown, or now he's getting on Coach Estrada, he's getting on Coach GT because I'm late. And so now the onus is back on the kid, because they don't want to disappoint.
They want to let the coach down.
Just like Bill Walsh did. Bill Walsh wouldn't yell at Joe Montana. He ripped into his coaches. But discipline comes from disciple. In order to learn discipline, you must have someone who is their disciple. You watch them.
Yep.
And that's what y'all's parents did for you, is that some kids don't know discipline because they've never had anybody to show them.
Yep.
It's my dad always said, I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day.
Oh, that's a bar. I'm gonna use that.
It's a poem. It's part of a poem.
That's a bar.
Yeah, you can Google it. It's a poem.
Oh well, that was fun.
I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I would just show me the way. It's a big long.
I just need that part. I'm gonna go look it up.
It works
right there.
Kids understand that. They don't understand maybe what a sermon is, but it's like when someone preaches. I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. And that's what y'all do.
I think the culture shifted as far as their assistants and being on the same level is when I apologize to a coach in front of the players for being wrong about something.
Yeah.
And then everybody, I'm like, I'm sorry, Coach Golden. Like, you were right. That was my bad. Like, that you were 100% right. And everybody's looking at me like, and I'm like, what?
You're
like,
showing humility.
Yeah, I made a mistake. You know what I mean? And I apologize to the kids. Like, I'll jump on a kid in practice. And then, but if I jump on them in practice, then I got to apologize in practice. Because if you do it in front of people, then you got to apologize in front of people. And so, like, I'll come back to practice the next day and be like, hey, yesterday when we were going over this, I jumped on so-and-so and he was right. and I apologize to you, so and so, because you were right, I was wrong. I thought about it differently when I got home, but I'm apologizing because I kind of embarrassed you in front of everybody or whatever. And the kids be like, but now, at first, they were like that. But now they've known that I make mistakes and I apologize all the time because I make a lot of mistakes and I apologize in front of people. So now kids are apologizing to each other in practice and stuff like that. So now it's all out in the open. It's okay to make a mistake and just own it and just say sorry and move on. And so you see coaches apologize to players, players apologizing to coaches, players like coaches apologize to each other, the players apologize to each other, and it's like a whole different like aura in practice now because people aren't afraid to make mistakes and to be themselves.
So the crazy thing about our program is no one in our program is afraid to cry in front of anyone. And that speaks a lot about our culture is, we're in a day and age where everything has to be like for show. And, you got Instagram, you got Twitter, you got all these things where everything is for show. And, people want to put on their best all the time. In our I mean, you see people crying in our program, happy tears, upset tears, whatever, all the time in our program. And it's not just the kids, it's the coaches as well. We were having, meetings, exit meetings, and, 3 out of the 5 exit meetings, a tear has been shed. You know what I'm saying? Because of just whether it be someone being grateful, whether someone's being sorry, whether it be whatever it may be, people can express and they feel safe to express who they are and what they're doing. And in 2023, that's tough, man, because a lot of people ridicule you for just being yourself. And that's like,
Man,
you know what I mean? And so we got a lot of clones in this world, and we got a lot of clones and not enough leaders, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's trying to fit into this mold. And I think that's one thing about our program that separates us from everybody else is we're going to be us. Our motto is do you and make them adjust. And so, we're gonna come out to, and each team is different. So like next year we may be a quiet team because of the kids that we had. But each year, however we come out and whatever we do, that's what we're gonna be. And we're not gonna be like everybody else. And our state, for the most part, it makes some people uncomfortable. And we like it that way. We like it that way because if we're not making people uncomfortable, if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, if people are not talking about Desert Edge, then we're not on our job. And so, we have different things that are exclusive to Desert Edge that people see and people know and people expect. And so just us being ourselves and doing that is part of one of those things in our culture that will never go away. And like I said, we don't want a bunch of clones in this world. We want different individuals because just like we're talking right now, I've never known you, but you're giving us this platform to do this. And in that platform and getting to know you, this can be something, because I have a following and Marcus has a following, and promoting you now, every time I see your podcast or anything, I'm gonna blast it out because I know what you want. And had I not stepped out on faith and we're not talking right now, we'd never
I mean,
even
how did I
known
even
you.
get hooked up with y'all? Someone recommended.
Yeah, somebody
Somebody
recommended on Twitter or
and the
something
guy that recommended, I didn't even know.
at
See,
all.
that's why I say I'm an idiot. All right, I had Shane Gailey on my show, and he said, Troy, the Lord takes care of fools and children. And he said, I'm not a child. So I'm just an idiot. And I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just here. Like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here and I got
I'm
y'all
glad you're
on
here, though.
here.
I'm glad you're
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, I'm glad
man,
you're here too.
I'm the
Yeah.
most blessed coach in America. I've only been doing this podcast a year. And I FaceTime Jim McNally. I'm
Wow.
friends with the Miami Hurricane offensive line coach, Bill Best at Colorado State, just from doing this podcast.
That's
And
cool, man. That's
it's
cool.
been such a blessing. And like when I meet y'all and I know y'all are about something, like I want to figure you out. I want to know what makes you special because like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen Mike Tyson when he talks to Sugar Ray Leonard. Have you ever seen it? It's a little
Uh,
clip. Well, you need to watch it because he tells him that, and he starts to cry and he says, I love you. And he says, you don't understand how I feel about you. He said, because he was locked up in a juvenile prison And when he watched him fight, he knew that is what he wanted to become.
Hmm.
And you need to see it because he's being so vulnerable. He's crying, and because this guy changed his life, and
Yep.
he never even knew. He said, "Look at you, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful." He's like, "I wanted to be you." He was like, "You're." I mean, it's like when people meet Michael Jordan. I mean, it's like he's not real.
Right.
Shannon Sharp just said. Um, so like you never really know the impact that you have on people. And like I study coaches. I study the greats. I study football. I love it. And I love y'all because I love football and I love football coaches. That's like Mike Tyson tells him, I've
Yeah.
studied war. I've studied the art of fighting. I've studied
Mhm.
all of the great boxers. And like, dude, I study Maya Angelou. And like she's the GOAT, man, because she
What do you
been
do? So what do you coach?
I used to be the head football coach at LC Bird High School up until this year.
Oh,
Where's
wow.
that? What state is that? And you said Virginia, right?
Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, I'm no
Okay.
longer the head coach. It was my school. We went 6-5, and at the end of the year, I had a meeting with the principal, and after that meeting, I was no longer the head coach. So,
Are you done
you
with
know,
coaching are you done with coaching altogether, or are you just taking a break?
it's like Michael Corleone. You know, you get out, and it keeps pulling you back in.
Yep.
And the Lord's never led me wrong. And I have
Yep.
a great friend, Billy Mills, in Dinwiddie High School. And yeah, there she goes.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
God did it. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy you said because Marcus and I were talking. I was like, man, Marcus, this guy's from Virginia. It's funny because my sister used to live in Virginia, and the first time I ever got on a plane was flying from the Bay Area to Virginia. So
Wow.
Virginia was one of the first times I ever seen lightning hit the ground. We were driving and we are going to a mall or something, and it was, Virginia has those thunderstorms. The first time really seeing thunderstorms because we don't
Oh,
really
We
have
got
them
him.
like that in California. And it hit on the ground. I'm like, yo. And one thing we took from our time in Virginia is I don't know if you remember, because isn't Virginia and Maryland and Baltimore they're like really close together, right?
Yes. And I'm
Yeah,
from Richmond. I don't go north of Richmond because it's the
yeah,
worst traffic in America.
yes, yes,
Worse than California. Yeah. Can you believe that? The capital of our country has the worst traffic.
And so,
There's something wrong, y'all.
so we went to a basketball thing, Midnight Madness. They used to have at the colleges up there. And
Where
so
at JMU?
yep. And so what we did was
Who was
we
the
took,
coach? Lefty Drizel?
who was the coach? It
No, I
was
don't
year
know.
are
We
you
were
talking
young.
about?
We were
I
like,
was,
I was like
I
in
was like eighth grade or
8th
something.
grade,
So I
yeah.
don't really know. I just remember going to watch a basketball game at midnight. And so in that, what we did when we got to South is, you go through acclimation period, right? You go through your helmet, your shoulder pads, and all that other stuff. And so on the last day of acclimation, where you can actually get to hit, we would have a midnight practice. So we would keep the boys after school after that one practice, feed them. We had a talent show one year. We did all this other stuff in the gym, just fellowshipping and just being together. And then we would have our first practice at midnight. Boom. And then it'd be underneath the lights. And that was the first time we get to hit. And we would have us, not necessarily, it was kind of staged, but it was everybody in the community came out. They would watch, go through drills. So mom and dad get to see what practice looks like. And mom and dad got to see, the coaches, and then we would run like a little, 15 plays here, 15 plays there, controlled, chaos type of deal. But the most impactful part is we were in South Phoenix, and apparent and the stigma was South Phoenix was like not a place you want to be outside late at night, and South Phoenix isn't one of those places where you want to go and raise your kids. And South Phoenix isn't one of those places, but we used this opportunity to debunk all that. The stadium would be packed. There would be no fights. It would just be people out there just hanging out, watching football and doing
Watching practice.
watching practice. And just when the practice was over, it was it. And then, it became a tradition. And it's so funny because Marcus, remember the boys this year, our boys at Desert Edge saw it on the documentary. It was like, Coach, how come we don't do a midnight practice? Why we don't do a midnight practice? That looks so much fun, And then just the way the structured in our neighborhood, we're not allowed to do that. But it just shows how stuff can carry over and do things like that. And so, just that our time at South, man, and just being able to do that it was a supreme blessing. And just without South Mount, man, like we would not be sitting here talking, right now. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm very grateful for them. And so that's I see that stop negotiating on the bottom. That's our jump. You want to tell the
Yeah,
story about
I
that?
saw I saw that on y'all's Twitter, and I was going to ask you about that. Stop negotiating with yourself. But the one thing about South that you just said that reminded me of something was like I used to drive Uber and Lyft during the pandemic because it
Okay.
was pretty good money. And one thing I found out, this was during a time of our country where it seemed like we were very divided. And like I'd pick up people, I'd go into in Richmond all the different courts, Gilpin Court, Hillside Court. And the one thing that I really learned from that was some of the best people live in the worst neighborhoods, and
Mhm.
some of the worst people
Live
live
in
in
the
the
best.
best neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And it don't matter where you're from, man. You could be I say that I'm the low man on the totem pole because I am. And
Mm.
you could be the low man on the totem pole, and you could
Still
be one of the
affect
best
people.
people, and you could be one of the men on the high guys on the totem pole, and you could be one of the worst people. And that's why those kids at South loved y'all so much, was because some of them might not have been loved, but you know what? There's some kids that are in some pretty nice neighborhoods who don't know love and have
Yeah.
never been loved for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So I guess it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your bank account is love is something that we all have in common. And
It's a universal language, right? Like you say love to anyone in any country, they'll have an idea of what that is. You know what I mean? And so I think that just that word alone is so powerful. And a lot of people think it's played out, but I don't think so. I think that it's like,
It's used too loosely.
yeah, what I mean. It's like you I tell my son every day when I leave to work or whatever, I love you. Have a good day. Um, when I get off the phone with my wife, with my mom, my brother, whoever, I tell them I love them all the time. My kids just randomly text us, "Hey, coach, man, just thinking about you, man. I love you, man." And so I think, and they're not from the same place I'm from, and my coach is the same thing. We all come from different walks of life, so I think you hit the nail on the head. Is you know that word is powerful, man. It's definitely powerful.
yeah, and like you have players say that I'm in love or I love this girl. And one thing I've gotten into is you know you know how you feel about your mom. Well, until you feel that same exact way about a girl, that ain't love. Like, the way you feel about your grandma, like, that's love. And, like, I think in Greek, there's 3 different words for love, but in the English
Yeah,
language, we only have 1.
One for
Like,
sure. Hmm.
so, I mean,
One person that gets, I think one person that gets lost in the shuffle is my I mean, he's my brother, but I don't. It's two people actually. It's my older brother-in-law, but I've never called him my brother-in-law. His name is Kirk. It's my sister's husband. Um, he was a coach that we coached under. He coached AAU basketball and travel basketball, and like had all the best players, and coached my nephews and stuff. And being under him and watching him, I don't think I've ever really told him, how much um, his impact on coaching, and watching him coach, and watching him be a father, and watching him, way he treats my sister and stuff like that, had a really big impact on my life, and my coaching, and my coaching career. And then he's my cousin, but no one would ever know him until I told him. But my brother, Chris Atkins, that's my cousin from my dad's sister's son, but he lives in California. He still lives there, and ever since we've been at Desert Edge, he has been coaching with us virtually. He's in all the meetings, and I think COVID actually helped us as a coaching staff,
yep,
um, because we had to figure out ways to still be around each other, still coach, and figure out different ways to maximize our time efficiently. And so COVID helped us do that. And so, my brother Mook, he's been coaching with us since COVID. He'll fly out to some games, like all the important games. He'll fly out and be on the sideline and stuff like that. And then, but he's been coaching with us virtually for 4 years, and it's been amazing. And he was someone that I looked up to when I was younger. Mook was the best athlete. Now, he's the best student. But he's had a real impact on us because it shows how much he cares about the kids. And when he comes, because he'll be in the meeting and stuff like that, and then when the kids see him in person, it's like, oh, so this is Coach Atkins, this is Coach Mook, you know what I'm saying? And so those two guys, Kirk and Chris or Mook, sometimes get lost in the shuffle. So I wanted to make sure I shouted them out because they do a lot for us. They're shoulders we can lean on, examples, great male examples for us coming up. And just want to give them a shout out to Kirk and Mook. Appreciate y'all.
Man, I just listening to y'all talk. I wrote down so many things here that, like, Mike Spencer, who was the head coach at St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale.
Great school.
Yeah, man. He was the head coach in between George Smith's 2 stints, and he never won a state championship. So he won with the head coach long. All right. Okay. I mean, 2 years. But like he asked me, he said, Troy, how do you show someone you love them? And I was like, how? Time and attention. The things that you love, you give your time and attention.
I need to write that down.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing about this podcast is that we're documenting history.
Oh, man.
And, at one time, history was written down. In certain cultures, history was told.
Yep.
It was an oral history. And today, our history is on video. One day, I mean, you'll probably be in virtual reality sitting right next to us talking about this. I mean, dude, y'all lived a life that they make movies about. Y'all are living it, though.
Man,
have you ever seen the movie Peanut Butter Falcon?
No, write that down, Marcus.
I am.
In the movie Peanut Butter Falcon, it's about a kid who's got Down syndrome, and he's living in an old folks' home. It's based off of, I think, Mark Twain's novel, Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
But he wants to get out of there, and he meets this guy. It's a dude from the Transformers that's crazy. And in the movie, there's 2 things I took from that, because this is emotional intelligence. And dude, I'm at the point now, like, when you don't have to be in school to learn. Emotional intelligence is the one thing they don't teach you in school, according to Jay-Z and Kevin Hart's podcast they did. And that's what Jay-Z talks about, is emotional intelligence and how he didn't understand everything that was going on when he was growing up. But and he also said in that things don't happen to you in life, they happen for you. And Jay-Z also said, because I'm a big Jay-Z fan, he said in this podcast, he says, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So, I mean, y'all's plan was that y'all was going to be head coach at all these different schools, but, dude, the Lord had a different plan. He put y'all at Desert's Edge because that's where he needed y'all. But in the movie Peanut Butter Falcon, there's 2 things I take from that movie, because it shows love. This guy, he loves this kid that he takes under. There's a part of the movie where the kid can't swim across the river, and he's worried that he's going to die. And the guy tells him this. The kid says, am I going to die? And the guy goes, yes. But are they going to have a good story to tell? And the second thing from the movie is this. Friends are family that we get to choose, because not everybody that you're blood related to, you're close with, or you may love, but there may be someone else who loves you or you love them, and you might not be you related, by blood. So like that's y'all's secret, man, is love and y'all care, and you put the time and attention into it, and that's why y'all win.
That's crazy.
That was all the things that I wrote down just from listening to y'all that I wanted to share with y'all, that y'all made me think about.
The Peanut Butter Falcon, like you said he was gonna cross the river, but he was
They were
afraid he was
swimming.
gonna die. Afraid he was gonna die. And it's crazy because I remember telling the boys when we started the playoffs, I said, you don't know how, you don't know where, you don't know what, and you don't know why this is gonna end. Right? But it's gonna end.
Mm-hmm.
And so the great thing about this is that you get to dictate on when it's gonna end. And I think when I told him that, you could tell when kids listen to you because you go to the little Instagrams and they say the little quotes and stuff that you said at practice and stuff. They use it for the little captions. And so we got to the state championship game, and I told them, I was like, guys, remember I told you about the who, what, when, why, and why, how? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, tonight you have a unique opportunity that 144 other schools 143 other schools don't get. And that's you get to end it how you want to end it tonight. Like you get to dictate how this is going to end tonight, and how this story is going to end. And you get to write your story in the end. And I think that was powerful that you said that because that's the main thing. That's what I was thinking too. A lot of kids, especially when especially when our players got ejected. I see kids. Yeah, so 16 of our players got ejected in the state championship game.
Wow. It sounds like a
16.
team I'd coach, but I would get ejected. How many games y'all been ejected from?
Huh?
How many games have y'all been ejected
Never.
from?
Never.
I got the record. I got 2 in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Three since 2014.
Our
referees hate me.
No, our guys got ejected for coming on the field to break up a fight. And so we were looking. I was looking at the kids, and I was like, okay, everybody who's not eligible to play, stand over here. It was like 5 D1 players that didn't get to play. And I was looking, and I seen a kid with his head down while I'm trying to go over something on the board, and one of my coaches was like, "Bro, why is your head down? Like, you need to be paying attention." And I'm like, "Yo, we have 4 minutes. Why is your head down? Like, you need to be paying attention." But I could see in his eyes, like he was like, "It's my time." You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't expecting it to be my time, and so we were walking out of the locker room, and I seen him, and he was holding his stomach, and I was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong? Are you scared? Like, you asked me about playing time. You talked to me about playing time, and you want to play. You want to go out there. Like, this is your time. Like, if you're scared, then this becomes a safety issue, and I can't put you out there." He was like, he looked me in the eye. He was like, I knew he was a little afraid, but he looked me in my eye. He was like, "Coach, I just think I just drank too much Gatorade." And I was like, "All right, well, go ahead and play." But he didn't like him. He didn't know if he was gonna die crossing that river. But what was the story gonna be? Once it's all said and done. And he wrote a hell of a story in that game because he made some amazing plays for us in that state championship game, like some game changing plays. And like now that I'm gonna watch, I wrote it down. I'm gonna go watch this movie. I'm gonna go watch it.
Man, I mean, I watch all kinds of stuff. I watch Lex Friedman and Mr. Beast podcast, and like Mr. Beast says that he teaches other people to be him, to work for him. So then they know what he likes and how to make the videos. So like I thought about that, and Nick Saban does the same thing. Mm-hmm. He may not use the same term that he makes other Nick Sabans.
Right.
They embrace his process. Mm-hmm. And y'all's coaches, the reason y'all trust them so much is because y'all made other yous. And really, that's what disciples are.
That's hard.
They're other hymns. And I mean, it's like I love Coach Wooden. I was thinking about Coach Wooden's love isn't anything until you give it away. Like that poem he has memorized. I wish I could say it, man. John Wooden. He's a mystic. That's what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said. But here's another thing. Mr. B said that the cheat code to life is to surround yourself with people you want to be like. He said he wanted to get in shape. So he went and found bodybuilders because bodybuilders are always lifting weights and they're always eating good and they're always saying, "Hey, Mr. Beast, why don't we go lift weights?" Because Mr. Beast had gotten out of shape. Mark Marrow, who was Johnny Be Good, y'all are probably around my age, the
Yeah.
wrestler.
Yeah.
He talks about it that show me your friends and I will show you your future.
Yeah.
That's another way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The coaches, but I don't have any other friends outside of my coaches staff. Like, I don't want to hang out with
when do you have
anybody else.
time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's not even the time. It's like
Yeah.
it's like
See
the
what
fact
you have in
that
common.
I know that me hanging out with this person is not going to put my life or my career in jeopardy. So I know
Yeah.
this person is we have the same mindset. We're here to have fun, and do the right things. But I know in my heart that all my coaches, if I'm around them, they're not going to do anything to jeopardize my health, my job, or my career. And those are people I want to be around. You know what I mean? And they elevate me. Like they challenge. They always consistently challenge me. They challenge all of us. We challenge each other. It's just a really great group because everybody's in it for the right reasons. Like I believe everybody on my staff is about kids, and they'll do everything about kids. Like everybody on my staff is about kids. And I don't feel like anyone is trying to one up me because all our coaches are the head coaches. We make sure that they understand that they're the head coaches of their position group. Like you're the head coach of the D line, you're the head coach of the corners, you're the head coach of the safeties. Like I'm not going to come into your room and tell you what to do. You're the head coach of that position. You know what I'm saying? And so they have that ownership. And that's why I feel like we have a great staff because I know that everybody's intentions are for the good of the program and for the good of the kids. And that's what I think makes our program different. I hear lots of
It's all about
stories.
the kids.
Yeah, I hear lots of stories about programs and coaches backstabbing each other and this and that. And like I've been one thing Mark and I have been really blessed with since being head coaches is really good principals and really good athletic directors, and then really good assistant coaches. Because like I hear stories and about principals first of all, and the principal we had at South was amazing, Brian Gulliford, and the principal we have now, Gretchen Hand, is amazing. She's a football lady. She understands, what it takes to be a great football program and how football literally sets the tone of the school for the entire year. And it's the first big sport, not the first sport because cross country and stuff like that, but it's the first big sport that leads off the school year. And she understands that sets the tone. And so we've had her, and then Brian Fair was our AD, and then Jason Lynn was our AD at Desert Edge. But now we have Pete Jelovic. He's a great and the school board.
She's coaching y'all up.
See, and the school board. Yeah, this
Don't be
great school
forgetting about
board.
them.
Yeah. see what I'm saying? Like
Politicians.
he understands. Yeah. The school board, the Agua Fria school board is amazing. And so we've had a lot of like really good people and support along the way that's helped us. And what it say, in order to if you are blessed, then you should be a blessing. And so that's what we try to do. When you
Be
are
a rainbow in somebody else's clouds.
exactly.
Maya
That's
Angelou.
what we do. And that's what we do. But we've had some amazing helpers and amazing support, along the way. And so, we're not here without the support of those people.
So the crazy thing about assistant coaches is, the stop negotiating with yourself came from Kobe Bryant. But we were at camp, and
The GOAT.
and
Yes.
so this is an exclusive right here because not a lot of people know what I'm about to tell you right now. So this is an exclusive. So we were up at camp, and I have Crohn's disease, and so when we were up at camp, I ate something it wasn't really agreeing, and so I was like, all right, normally, take some medicine, take some Tylenol, kind of subside, whatever, but it wasn't going away, and so I was just fighting through and fighting through and fighting through. And on the last day, I told my one of my assistant coaches who drove up to camp, I was like, listen, if I feel the same way in the morning. We're just gonna sneak me out of here because I don't want the boys to see it. You're gonna sneak me out of here, and you're gonna get me down to Phoenix because we go to camp up in the north because Phoenix is 115 degrees. You can't be doing football camps and stuff in Phoenix. So it was about 2.5 hours away. So that next morning, I got up and I was feeling terrible, and so I got my coach. I was like, "Listen, bro, you got to get me down to Phoenix." And so, packed up all my stuff and got me down to Phoenix. The whole ride, I'm talking about 2.5 hours. I felt like I was gonna die, and so when he got me there, he rolled me in. They got me a wheelchair, rolled me in, and I remember closing my eyes, and the next thing I know, I wake up and I'm in like a full body cast. I can't move, and I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm like, "Yo, what's going on?" And there's this really sweet lady on this computer, configuring something, and I'm like, "Lady, and it's so funny. I'll never forget this. I was like, I gotta pee," and she was like, "Pee."
Just
And I was
go.
like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Just pee." And I'm like, "Ma'am, like I'm stuck here. Like she's like, "Sir, I hear what you're saying. Just pee." So I peed, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm waiting for the warm feeling or whatever. And so I'm like, I'm not feeling it. She was like, and so I'm like, so what's going on? Like after I'm kind of figuring out, like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, you had to have emergency surgery. I looked down and I have like, I don't know, probably like 20 or some 25 stitches on my stomach. They
Mm.
had to do an emergency resection on my small colon. They took like a foot and a half of my small colon out. And of course, I can't leave. So, we just get back from camp, I can't leave. And so I'm just sitting there, just, I got time, what I mean? I have a lot of time. And so I came across this Kobe Bryant interview, and the guy asked Kobe Bryant, "When did you go from good to great?" And he was like, Kobe was like, "When I stopped negotiating with myself." And the guy was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he was like, he said, "We all do it." And Kobe said, "Even I do it." He said, "We all do it." He said, "But you know how you go like those New Year's resolutions, and you say, you know what, every day for the next 365 days, I'm going to do 50 push-ups." And then you get to those 50 push-ups and you're going strong. It's like week 3, and you're doing it every day, and then you're having a bad day, and you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it today. I'm just going to do 100 tomorrow. And so then you go to that 100 tomorrow, and you can't do the 100 because now it's a lot of push-ups, and you can't do the 100. So you're like, you know what? I'll just do 75 a day, and then I'll do another 75 tomorrow. And then you start negotiating with yourself, and you start to take days away. Well, now I'm going to go this day. I'm going to go every other day. And he said, when I stopped doing that is when I went from good to great. And so called Marcus. I was like, yo, I got it. I got it. I got it. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I got it. This is what we're going to do for this year. And it's, I just was showing the clip. He was like, yo, this is fire. I'm going to do this. And so it became a brand, and it became our thing. And it became, like a inspiration to a lot of people. Like there are schools in Georgia who've hit Marcus and I, like, yo, can we use this? Like, yeah, man. Like go ahead and use that. And so like, we turned into a brand to now we have shirts, we have hoodies, we have all these different things. And we outfit teams now, like, what I'm saying, like, hey, you can use it, just get your merchandise through us. We're gonna give you a really good deal. But this message, I feel like, is more important than the actual making money process. And so, I'll see people, I wear I have different colors of it. So I wear one like every single day, a hoodie or a t-shirt, and I'll be out and about, and people are like, yo, like, thank you. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, no, I needed to see that. I needed to see that message. And I'm like, all right. And then, just different schools and different people just see it, and they get the message. It's universal. It's not just a football thing. It's a life thing, like that investment count that you've been supposedly making for yourself for the last 5 years. You negotiating with yourself. That's that book you want to always write. That you keep putting off. You negotiating with yourself. And so if you want to have these great things and do these different things, you can't negotiate. And so within our program, kids will be doing stuff, and we'll just say, hey, let's. So are we negotiating? Is this what we're doing? So we're negotiating now. No, no, coach, no, we're not negotiating. And so different things like that, and you'll hear kids say to each other, "Oh, well, he's negotiating with himself again." And so it's catching on to our group and catching on in our school. Like our teachers wear, get the shirts and wear it around school. Um, every year we do a breast cancer walk um, for October. So our boys are not allowed to wear pink unless we do this breast cancer walk, because we're not just doing it for show. So we're going to take you
Mm-hmm.
down, Tempe. We're going to walk with some survivors. We're going to walk to some people who are going through it. So our whole team wore pink. Stop negotiating with yourself shirts. Um, for the breast cancer walk. So those ladies are looking at it like, okay, all right, I'm feeling sorry for myself, but let me get myself back in order. So the message is just out there, and so that's kind of what our thing. So everywhere we do now, and people know that stop negotiating yourself is synonymous with Desert Edge football, and like I said, like you said earlier, we just want to be an inspiration, and it's funny because in that game for that half of that season, I'd have to meet my brother in the locker room because I would have to carry like this backpack with like all these nutrients and stuff like that because I lost so much weight that it was always just pumping in. I had like a tube in my arm that it was just pumping into the tube. So I wouldn't practice all week. I wouldn't be at practice because it was too hot. So I would be coaching kids up on huddle, and shout out to my assistant coaches because they were relaying the message. They were at the school every single day. We would go through the game plan, and then on Friday night I would show up to the school. Marcus would meet me in the locker room. He would unhook me from the thing. He would tie it up, tape it up. He became like my nurse, low key. Tie it up, tape it up. I would go coach the game, call the plays, come back into the field house, tell the kids, hey, I love y'all. I'll see y'all next week. He would hook me back up to the thing, and I would go home and get on film again. And the first 5 games of that season was like that, and nobody knew what was going on. They would just see me and be like, "Oh, coach, you're out here," whatever. Nobody knew what was going on behind the scenes. Not to mention, shout out to my wife, who um, shoot, this is 18 years strong. And she was my nurse. She would change the tubes and she would make it. She would do everything she possibly could, so then that way I can get the clearance to coach football because she knew that if I couldn't coach football, that life would be miserable. And so, Marcus was
You
coming
two
up to
guys should be politicians. Dude, like sometimes I think about football, like football's great. It's
yeah,
wonderful. But like, dude, you two guys are the guys that need to be leading our country and leading the state of Arizona. Nah. I mean, it's in y'all's DNA.
and Marcus, I know,
Because y'all are leaders. You're
you
leaders.
know, twin. You're a twin,
Thank
so
you.
you know what it's about. And I know it was crushing. My brother every single day. He was losing sleep trying to manage our team. We've been together for this whole time, and then now he's had to manage the team by himself. Not to say he couldn't do it, but it's just not something that we had planned. You know what I mean? And so he was spending time at the hospital, spending time with his family, spending time with the boys. And so, I commend him for being able to navigate, through that, and just the unwavering support of our football team, and the kids had something to lean on, and so that's kind of where that came from. I think that'd be a part of our program. Actually, that'd be a part of my life. Everywhere I go, any stop that we're at, stop negotiating with yourself is going to be like is going to be a thing. And people who see this podcast and do that, the message is simple. Do you want to be good, or do you want to be great? And if you want to be great, then we don't negotiate. And I call excuses. I call
BCD.
excuses, pain, all that.
Yeah.
Those are terrorists, and we don't negotiate with terrorists. And so, and that's the American way. We don't negotiate with terrorists. And so when those terrorists come into play, we just push them to the side and go about our business.
And shout out to my wife too, man, because I have 5 kids, and one is actually playing football, and so during from July till December, hopefully, she's got a lot of work to do and to make sure this operation is running successfully. So she does a great job of being a mom, being a support, being a dad sometimes, um, being a cheerleader, being all kind of things, all kind of hats that she has to wear throughout the season. And I was just thinking the other day, how how much I love being a dad. How much I love taking my kids to school and picking them up every day. You know what I'm saying? And being the dad part when the season's over is something that I really look forward to,
Mhm.
because you know we missed that part during the football season. Like, we do our best, and especially when you're trying to run a elite program. But when playoffs are over and I get to be a dad and I get to let my kids get on my nerves and I get to teach them and I get to take them to the park and I get to give them my time and my attention, give them my love. Like you said, I get to give them my time and my attention. That's such an underrated um, opportunity as coaches, because we miss out on a lot of that because we're pouring into other kids and into other people's kids. But one thing, after the state championship game, they have a video of my daughter's crying, but I'm smiling, even though I'm hurting inside. But I don't want them to know, like, you got to find beauty in everything. You know what I'm saying? And just
Yeah.
seeing them, and I'm telling, but I was like, well, daddy gets to pick you up from school now. And they're like, yay. You know what I'm saying? That kind of made them stop crying. And so, picking them up, dropping them off, and that part is just very underrated. Um, when it comes to coaching, man. And so for you young coaches, make sure when it's off time, it is off time, because you never get that time back. I tell the boys all the time, there's one thing in life you can't ever get back, and that's time. And
Mhm.
so where you invest your time and where you spend your time and where you place your time is a very, very valuable skill you have to learn, because
Mhm.
that is something that you don't want to waste.
Yep.
And so, and I think they've understand that. And because I tell them that all the time, like, you gotta, the time, the people that you're giving your time, like, it is like money. But you can get money back, and you can get relationships back. You can get stuff back. You can get all those things back, but you can't ever get time back. And so, being a dad and having that dad time is something that's very, very important to me, and very, very important to all our coaches. You
Mhm.
um, come to our weight room sessions over the summer. You're gonna see a bunch of kids running around the weight room, because they come with us literally everywhere we go, especially during the summertime. And we, kids. I remember at South, kids would be like, "Oh, coach, I miss weights because of because I had to watch my little brother and sister." I said, "Bring a little brother and sister. Like, that is not an excuse. We have iPads, we have stuff, we got food. Like, we have team managers that were here, like that like we have coloring books. Like, saying you couldn't come because you had to watch your little brother and sister is not an excuse. I'm a
Mhm.
father, first and foremost. So, not bringing your little brother and sister here, do you not feel safe with them here or something? Like, now I'm starting to feel a little disrespected. Like, bring whoever wants to come, because that's not an excuse. This is a family ran operation, and we're gonna treat it as such. And so we didn't have no more kids missing after that. We'd have kids running all around the weight room, and coloring, and we have like little like workbooks that they can work on their math and science and stuff like that. Like, make it fun for them, obviously, but they're doing something over the summertime while we're coaching the boys up, and it was great. It was great. So yeah,
Um,
man, you
like
young
Mark
coaches.
said, I can concur. Like, being a dad is, one of the greatest things. And, people who knew us earlier in our journey knew that we worked really, 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 really hard and really, 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 really long. And then once we got, I think Marks and I got that balance of family, it helped everything. Like, we make it a point to take family trips every year. We take a family trip right before the summertime, and then we take a family trip right before the season starts. Like it's automatic. We my wife, whenever I get an opportunity, we fixed our game planning, so then that way we spend more time with our families on the weekends. We
Yeah,
used to
we don't even meet on the weekends as coaches.
yeah, like we bear like it's everything's so like Marcus said earlier. COVID helped us because it made us more efficient. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like we don't have to have these long drawn out meetings, sitting in a room together. No, we can get on Google Meets. If my wife needs me, she can holler at me. I go, hey, hold on, guys, I'll be right back. I can
Yeah.
go see what she needs and do all that. So they don't feel separate. You know what I'm saying? And for, another thing I could tell, young coaches that are coming up in the game, find a way for your wife to get included. Find a way for your wife or your significant other to be a part of it. If you do that, life is so much easier. You know what I mean? Like if they feel like they're invested, then they're not tripping on you being in a meeting for 4 or 5 hours because they know what's going on. If they feel like they're invested, you go into a clinic, for a couple of days to get better at coaching. She's not going to trip on it because she knows what it's about. So as long as you have your people who you care about invested, then everything works. Like our kids, like, well, granted, my nieces don't come in the locker room, but my son comes in the locker room before games. He walks out with us, when we do the walkout because, I want him to feel a part of it. Like he literally feels like he's a scorpion. You know what I'm saying? And so he's not worried about, when daddy's gone because he knows he's with the scorpions and that, he's trying to help the scorpions. And so now we have this time together. We're going to spend all this time together. Our families at this time get together a lot. You know, um, our kids are not necessarily cousins. They're like brothers and sisters because of how close we are and how close our families
Yeah.
are. So it's not like, and so that's all they know. They've been like that since they were born. We make sure to make it a point to be them together. And so, family is everything, man. And so without them, without our wives, without our kids and their blessing, none of this works. So I'll tell you right now, if my wife told me, hey, listen, I want you to stop coaching. I just want you to spend more time with my family. Yeah, it would suck. It would really suck, but I gotta roll with it. That's my wife. You know what I'm saying? And if she
Mm-hmm.
needs me to be there for my son, then I'm gonna be there for my son. Now, would she do that? There's probably a 99.9999% chance that she would never, never, ever, ever do that. But at the same time, if she was to do so, then that's what we got to do. But if she feels invested, if she feels a part of it, then she's not gonna say that at all.
Yeah. And when you love somebody, you love them for their good and their bad. And
Yep.
you love them for who they are, their genuine self. And you are a coach. I mean, I didn't even know y'all before this morning when I talked to y'all. And I told you what I wanted this podcast to be and who we wanted to do it for and what we wanted
Mhm.
to say. And I mean, like I told you, I study coaches. And Phil Jackson, he won 11 rings with the two greatest players of all time. And how did he do it? He went to Michael Jordan and he went to Kobe Bryant. He is the greatest GOAT coach of all time. And he said, you're special. You have a gift. He saw that in them. He knew that and he embraced it. And that just made them customados, said Mike Tyson. You will be the youngest world champ of all time. He coached Floyd Patterson. He was Muhammad Ali's coach. He slapped boxing with Muhammad Ali on YouTube. You can watch it. I mean, so that's one thing about the greatest coaches is that they recognize when someone has a gift and they see something in you that you may not see in yourself. And I want to say this because, I mean, I've been to Divorce City. I got a seventh grade son. I see one day a week. So I've missed a lot of time with him. And this podcast, we're documenting history.
Mhm.
I remember when I was in college, my friend had gotten married, and this girl, she told me, she said, and this is my girlfriend calling me, man. And I tell you one thing, if y'all saw her, you would say, Troy, you can recruit. Okay. Yeah. So I love you, Nina, man. All right. From Rock Hill, South Carolina. She country. All right. And I knew I loved her when I heard her voice on the phone. That was over with. She
That's
said, he's
awesome, man.
country. Yes. So the girl told me, Troy, there's a place that you can touch a woman that will drive her crazy. She'll fall in love with you. And you know what? You do it as a coach. There's
Oh
a
yeah.
place you can touch your players that
Yep.
can make them fall in love with you. That
Mhm.
can make them believe.
Yep.
And it's when you touch
Yep.
someone's heart. And that's what y'all do. You
I
touched
try
people's
to.
heart, man.
That's the goal, and people call BS, but I tell people all the time, Marcus and I started winning more when we cared about winning less. And when we all we cared about was, our goal was, because we were like, we want to win, we want to win, we want to win. But then it got to the point was, what's winning? Winning games, or what's winning? And so for us, we started placing an emphasis on winning kids' hearts, winning kids' minds, sending kids to college, giving kids the best experience possible, giving kids hope, giving kids purpose, giving kids, power. And once we started winning those, then the winning in football just took care of itself. Marcus does a really good job with the recruiting. I think that his ability to navigate in that area has opened doors and changed lives for so many people. I mean, we've sent so many kids, first generation kids, to college. It's incredible. And I tell kids all the time, listen, you're going to school not to go to the NBA. You're going to school, or the NFL. You're going to school so you can get out in this world and make an impact. And what our job is to do is to help you do it and come out of school debt free. That's our job, is to get you to a place where you can find out who you are. And when you get out of there, you have no debt, so you can hit the ground running. And so whether you're a D2 kid, an NAIA kid, or, D1 or Power 5 or a group of 5, our job, and Marcus, like I said, Marcus does a really, really good job at this, is setting
Marcus
up
and Henry.
kids. Marcus and Coach Henry, um, um, setting kids up, not only just getting them scholarships, but getting them the right scholarships to the right schools in the right places. You know what I'm saying? We don't want our kids in the portal. We want our kids to go and honor their commitment and do what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean? It's so much switching and swapping in this generation because things get hard. We don't coach our kids like that. Marcus always says this, and I love when he says this: is greatness is on the other side of hard.
David Goggins.
And so for our kids, having been tough and being resilient, that's just part of our DNA. That's just part of who we are. They live it on a day-to-day basis. And so when they go to school, we try to make Desert Edge a college preparatory for football. Our kids, when they go to schools at this college, they're going to know how to go to class. They're going to know how to study. They're going to know how to talk to people. And then last but not least, they're going to be phenomenal football players. But the first three are more important than the last one, because the first three are going to keep you there. The last one is why you're there. And so that's just kind of how, we do things. And we want our players and parents to know that even though we're a little unorthodox, there's a method behind the madness. And so, we love our kids, man. It's crazy. And people know, the kids know, that's all that matters.
Yeah, they know it. Kids can spot a phony.
Man,
Kids
Oh
can
yeah,
spot fakes. It's like Truman Show.
that's a
Yep.
good movie.
That's a
A
really
That's a
great
good
good
movie.
movie.
It's a great movie, and someone's broke it down, but everybody was phony. Everybody was fake. He didn't know it. The only person he ever met that was really true and genuine was that girl that snuck onto the show. And what did he
Yep.
do? He fell in love with her
Yep.
Yep.
because she was the only real person he had ever met. I mean, there
Dang.
ain't many real people. There's not many genuine people, and that's what y'all are. You're
Real
special.
is rare.
Yeah, I mean,
Man.
and it doesn't take long. Uh, Good grammar. I know
I
she's not
told you.
talking to me
I told you.
because that's one thing I've never been accused of. All
I
right.
told you.
I say water. I want to drink some water. Y'all ever heard that? Water?
Oh,
Water.
water.
Yeah. I want to H2O, water. What people say is water. I say water.
So, what other questions you got for us, man? I feel like
Man, dude, we've
I
been
know
on
we
here.
have a church right now. We have a church right now, but I want
It
to
is.
see somebody
It
here.
is. Dude, we've
But
been
church,
on here for 2 hours. And I
no, this
mean,
is good, man. This is great. Like the crazy thing is this shows what kind of person you are, man, and what kind of podcast you're running. Because like we just sitting here talking, like we just sitting at a bar, just you know what I mean, just chopping it up, and That's amazing, man. And shout out to you for reaching out to us and getting us on this podcast. I know it's going to reach some people, so we really appreciate you giving us this platform, man. And you didn't have to, what I'm saying. And so for you to be able to do this for us, man, it's an honor and
I'm
a
not in
privilege.
control of this. That's one thing I realized is I'm not in control of this, and I'm not guiding this ship. I guess I'm a vessel. I guess I'm
Yep,
just
you
here,
are a vessel.
and I show up and do my best. And I know I
No.
ain't perfect, but before this started, we said that we wanted to do this, to document history and
Mhm.
to teach lessons that we want our kids to remember, our players, but more especially your own kids, like my son
Mhm.
Jackson, who's in 7th grade. And I want to tell him, man, you're just as smart as everybody else. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you're from. It really don't even matter how smart you are.
Nope.
I mean, there's a lot of people with high IQs that are holding a sign down by the bridge,
Yep.
but it's about heart.
Yep.
It's about how tough you are. And that's one thing I'm going to say. Then I'm going to hand it over to y'all. Y'all can say what y'all want to say to the people that y'all love. But I didn't know what toughness was until I was about probably 38 years old.
Mm.
Toughness ain't about fighting. I used to think bullies were tough. They're soft. Being tough is being able to overcome adversity and being able to not quit. And y'all didn't quit. And Mike Tyson was asked if he could send an email to Customato, what would he say?
Mm.
And he said, I would ask Customato, how did I do? Because he wasn't always a good person, but how did he do? So, Jackson, I love you. I'm gonna pass it over to Marcus since you got you got your mic on. Y'all are the two-headed monster. That's what the two-headed monster. That's what they used to. My mentor Jimmy Rogers was an Army Ranger, and he used to eat glass. Yeah, I got a video. I can text it to y'all. He used to eat glass before games. Army Rangers ain't right, man. But why do they do it? Why do the Navy SEALs do it? They do it for the guy next to them. They don't do it for the flag. They don't do it for, some patriotic reason. Like last man standing, Marcus Luttrell. He did it for the guy next to him, and he won't going to quit. So, Marcus, I'm going to pass it over to you. You can say what you want to say in this thing. But, man,
First of
thanks.
all, I just want to thank God, man, for the
Amen.
opportunities. A lot of people don't get these opportunities, man, and a lot of people don't get to share their testimony and to affect people. But I also want to say, Jackson, to your son, that you have a wonderful father that is out here, giving his time and lending himself and lending his platform for other people to shine. And so, if anything, if you ever watch this, Jackson, just know that your father loves you and that your father's a great man. This season has been and this journey has been crazy, man. This 19 years, and then going to the state championship. It's every 4 years something happens. Has been for us as head coach. So the 4 years at South, we ended in a region championship, and then the 4 years here. At the end of the 4 years here, we ended up basically winning a championship. But I can't thank everyone and because by name, because I would feel bad if I left somebody out. So if I've ever been a part of your life, if I ever been a part of your life, or you ever been a part of mine, just thank you. Even to the people who don't like us or don't like me, thank you. Because
anybody that don't like you two don't know you, or they're a hater.
Yeah, nah, but there's a lot of people who don't, but I would like to just tell them thank you as well, because you're supposed to love everybody, and the message of this podcast, I think, was about love and about loving people and the different types of love. And so, obviously, thank my wife Mariela, my kids, Angel, Juju, Yanni, Lana, Leah, my parents, Monica, Jimmy, my sisters, Carmen, Cha. My brothers, Damon, TJ, obviously Mark, Najee, Mo, um, and just thank all the great people that allowed us to just be a part of their life. There's a lot of people who sacrificed their time and sacrificed their goals in order for Mark and I to reach ours. And there's no dollar amount that you can put on that. My nephews, Miles Maceo, my nieces, Miles, Deja, Sela, Ria, like, um, you know, everybody that has allowed me to pour into them, as made me just a better man and a better coach. Um, I don't know how long I'll be doing this, but as long as I'm doing it, just know that any parent or anybody seeing this, that I'm gonna give it my best. And I always give it my best. I can always, reporter. We had lost to Cactus. Um, and we needed to win that game to go to the Open. And I was smiling and I was talking after the game, and he was like, "Man, I've seen you in interviews when you win, and I've seen you in interviews when you lose, and you're always the same." And I said, "You know why? Because I give my best, and I know that I'm not going to win all the time, but I'm happy that I was able to compete. I'm happy that I'm able to go home and be with my family." And I don't want my daughters or my family to see this game affect me in a way till it gets me out of character, because that's just not me. And I'm just blessed and I'm just happy, just to be able to do this. Not a lot of people get to coach football. Not a lot of people get to coach at a high level, and not a lot of people get to affect lives. So, I'm just blessed, and we get to go to the Cardinal Stadium today, and they're going to announce us as High School Coach of the Year. Just like that to me is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like that, just by loving people, and if anybody's watching this, just know that love will cure all, and I really believe that. But you got to use it in the right way. So, I love everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, Coach Taylor. Um, and just um, we are DE. It's the West Side.
Of course, I want to thank my wife, she's always known me as a coach, and she's moved state to state with us. She supported us. I tell people all the time that I'm forever in her debt, because I'm sure that she wanted to be something in her life besides just a mom and a wife, and do something. She wanted to be great, and she is great. She's a great mom. She's a great wife. She's a great supporter. But essentially, she made my dream her dream. She put everything she wanted to do on hold. She wanted to put everything she probably thought she wanted to do. She put that on hold to pour in and to water this seed that I got going on. And so, for her to be able to do that is the ultimate sacrifice, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm forever in her debt for that. Of course, all my family. I'm not going to thank everybody else. Everybody Marcus thank, because as we said, I'm gonna go a different route and thank the coaches that we worked under: Larry Feckenheimer, John Clanton, Ryan Andrews, Todd Nelson, Kelly Moore. Um, all these different coaches who've impacted Marcus and I, and Mark Wood, who impacted us in such a great. I don't think they understand. I think they hear us say them like, oh well, but they don't understand the impact. Kelly Moore, he's our spiritual father. He was the one that told us, you know, because we were talking about bringing God into our locker room. He was like, listen, if they don't let God in your locker room, then God gonna find another place for you. And ever since then, we did that. You know what I'm
He's
saying?
coming no matter what.
You
Wherever
know,
y'all go,
so
he goes.
that
So yeah,
transformed. That transformed that. Mark Wood. You know, just showing us how to lead. He helped us understand what toughness is really about. Ryan Andrews, all these coaches, John Clanton, all these people that have helped us along the way. And, I want to give a shout out to, our assistant coaches, all of our assistant coaches, Coach Golden, Coach Henry, Coach Estrada, Coach Nick, Coach GT, Coach Hicks, Coach Brown, Coach
Yeah.
Connor, Coach Kevin, Coach Waldeck, Coach D. Will, Coach, all the coaches. I forget anybody. I don't want to forget nobody. Um,
Ramon, Coach
Coach
Robinson.
Ramon, Coach Ramon Robinson, all my assistant coaches, because man, those dudes, all you see is Marcus, but not knowing that those dudes work just as hard as we do, and in the same thing, And last but not least, you know, well, real quick, our principal, our AD, our governing body, everybody that supports us, at Desert Edge, Marcus alluded to it earlier that without those people, we don't get if we don't have that support, we're not doing what we're doing. And those people, man, they are some really amazing, amazing people. And last but not least, man, our football players. A lot of attention that we get is because of this game. And for people that don't understand what happened in this game, I'm gonna do it to break it down to you real briefly. We go into this game against a team. This is the third time we played a team in less than 365 days. We lost to them in the quarterfinals, and then we played them and beat them in triple overtime. So this was a game of games. And in the contract, in the moments of the game, we had 16 players ejected. A lot of our starters on defense got ejected. Probably like 5 D1 players, a couple D2 players. And so we're down. Marcus does. Shout out to my brother Marcus, of course. He goes into this next half with freshman and sophomore scout players on defense against a team who's averaging 47 points a game, who dropped 70 points in the playoffs twice. And from that point on, they scored one time on them, and from that point on, it was of course, my brother Mook, who was there with us. You know, we go 42. We're down 42-13. And now, granted, you coach football, and a lot of coaches on this podcast, going to see this coach football. Scout players, they're not really involved with the game plan. So they've been with us playing Higley's defense all week, and now they're being thrown into the fire in the biggest game of their lives. And now we're down 42-13 with 15 minutes to go in the game. So it's 3 minutes to go in the third quarter, and we end up shutting them out the rest of the game, and then we lose on a questionable call.
What?
40 so we drive 90 yards with no timeouts, spike the clock with 1 second to go, go in the score. I asked the boys, what do you want to do? They said, Coach, we didn't come here to tie. Let's go for two. And I'm like, I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking the same thing. And Marcus is like, yo, we going for two. We going for two. We get the two, and they call it back for a holding. Now, if anybody knows anything about football, there's a lot of holding going on the 2 yard line. And unless it's egregious, you got to let it ride. And it wasn't egregious, and it is what it is. But that game showed people that the coaches at Desert Edge can coach. Because what was the stigma is you got these coaches over there, they're getting the best players, they're developing the best players, but they're Jimmy's and Joe's guys. They're not really X's and O's guys. And we're like, okay, that's cool. But to go into a game down 42-13 with 15 minutes to go and win the game with, matter of fact, no huddle. So we can't make any in-game adjustments. We can't do any of that. And for Marcus and our defensive staff to put together a game plan in 10 minutes at halftime with a bunch of 14-year-olds, let people know that we can coach. And so the thing about it is this does not happen without the adversity, without our boys, going through those type of things. And so for them to rise above everything that was going on in that moment, not only propelled our school, but propelled us as coaches, and we're forever grateful for them for that. So I thank them for that. And then, of course, like I said a little too earlier, my brother Mook, who puts in all the time that we do as coaches, but doesn't ever get to go to the games because he's in California. And so for him to be able to do that and do that at a high level, it's amazing. And so, again, thank you, Coach Taylor, for this awesome opportunity.
They need to make a movie out of that, man.
You
That's
know,
better than Friday Night Lights. They need to make a
thank you
movie about that, dude.
thank you for this opportunity, man. I know there's a lot of
Jay-Z and
people gonna
LeBron
see
need
this.
to put that on Netflix, man.
Uh,
Dude,
it-
that's better than Friday Night Lights, man. They're gonna
and,
make a movie out of that. I'm gonna call it right now.
and the crazy thing is, the only comfort I get at night, because it was literally taken away from us, the only comfort I get when I lay down is I lay down and I just think, yo, we just did some amazing stuff. Like win or
Yes.
lose, whatever, we know deep down in our hearts, the outcome, but we did some amazing stuff, and we let the whole state see that. And we don't get this recognition. We don't get this without our players. So, I love them. I love y'all. If y'all ever see this, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, because we're not playing it down. You know what I'm saying? And Jackson, like Marcus said, your dad is amazing. And just, follow his lead, because he's on to something special. So I appreciate you, brother.
Y'all the best, man. LeBron and Jay-Z, you need to make that into a movie. Seriously, that's better movie than Friday Night Lights, man.
It was a movie that night. It was
That's
the
movie, man. Y'all's
crazy.
life is the movie, man. I'm glad I got to meet y'all. I'm
glad
gonna
I got
press
to meet
in
you.
and we'll sit here and talk for a second.
Yeah.
But we did 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna press in.